Last time we have seen Savitri looking at the outside world, busy with his usual activities, unaware of the deeper things which are likely to happen. There are no inkling of it at all, we saw it. There are no idea, no knowledge of it, no perception of it. Savitri is seeing this world, oblivious of these deeper events from her separate self. Now the question is, what is this separate self? Who is this separate self? That she can see differently than the others do. Out of a separate self, she looked and saw moving among the unconscious faces lived. In mind, a stranger though, in heart so near. The ignorant, smiling world go happily by. Upon its way towards an unknown, the doom, and wondered at the carelessness of things, careless lives of men. She is puzzled how people remain careless about life, that they have no hint of the things which lie behind the outward events. But Savitri is able to see all those things. She sees from a separate self all these things happening. Now this phrase separate self appears 7 times in Savitri. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in Savitri. And it will be good if we can look at those occurrences, what the phrase separate self means. We have right at the beginning Savitri separate self, which seems to be somewhat different than the separate self which appears in the 4th canto of the first book. Now, this canto describes the secret knowledge or the working of Purusha and Prakriti in the Yoga of Ashwapati, in the Yoga. And we are told that in the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery elects a human vessel of descent. A breath comes down from supernal air. A presence is born. A guiding light awakes. Its stillness falls upon the instruments. A revealing force sweeps blazing in. Out of some vast superior continent, knowledge breaks through, trailing its radiant seas, and nature trembles to the power of the flame. A greater personality sometimes possesses us, which yet we know is ours, or we adore the master of our souls. Then the small bodily ego thins and falls. No more insisting on its separate self, the bodily ego thins and falls. It no more insisting on its separate self. The outward personality has no pursuing power when a greater power, a greater personality possesses us. No more insisting on a separate self, losing the punctilio of its separate birth, its minute details, its aspects of point by point functioning. All those things are forgotten when a greater personality possesses us. No more insisting on a separate self, losing the punctilio of its separate birth, it leaves us one with nature and with God. So, this is what happens when a separate self comes into operation. In other words, in the case of Savitri, she is enjoying the early period of married life, but she is also haunted, disturbed, is in anguish about the forthcoming death of her husband. And she stands apart. Under the extreme conditions, it is her separate self which looks out and sees things. Moving with the unconscious forces, faces love. It is her separate self which comes out and sees things. Which also means that although Savitri is full of human nature at the moment, yet there is something deep in her which remains alert, which is aware of things that have to happen. Savitri is already in a kind of spiritual state by which she can see things. She sees things in a way which the others don't see. Others are seeing merely doing things, and she is amazed at them that they are not concerned about the future, about the events, about the calamities which fall on life. She is amazed at that. But her separate self has come out and is telling her. Savitri is already in a great state of spiritual awakening. She has not yet started her yoga proper. It will begin. She will be given the command to find her soul. But her nature, her personality is already deeply spiritual, and it immediately seizes the spiritual possibilities which are present in nature, in herself, in the world around. She always sees those things. Out of a separate self, she looked and saw, moving amid the unconscious faces, loved, in mind a stranger, though in heart so near, the ignorant, the smiling world go happily by. Now, on another occasion, we have Again, in the yoga of Ashwapati, he is pursuing the unknowable. It is a kind of nirvana into which he is entering, where all the inconscious world, nature is left behind, and his true spirit is chasing the unknowable. In that condition, he sees something happening in him. In an abysmal lapse of all things built, transcending every perishable support, and joining at last its mighty origin, this separate self must melt or be reborn into a truth beyond the mind's appeal. That is the high state of spiritual attainment Ashwapati is reaching. Here, Savitri is already in that state unconsciously. With her yoga, it becomes more powerful, more dynamic, more effective in operation. And joining at last its mighty origin, the separate self must melt, it must disappear. The separation of self and non-self, not self, oneself, all that must disappear. It is not just self alone. When you see the self alone, then to you the whole world appears meaningless, pointless, an illusion. The individuality is lost. And it is that separate self from the self which becomes a kind of a block also. Even that must melt and disappear. So that you see that the universal self and the individual self, they have a kind of an identity, a relationship in the scheme of things. And it is that which must come into operation. And joining at last its mighty origin, the separate self must melt or be reborn into a truth beyond the mind's appeal. All glory of outline, sweetness of harmony, rejected like a grace of trivial notes, expunged from being's silence, due, austere, died into a fine and blissful nothingness. Now this is the state of separate self Ashwapati is experiencing. Savitri, in a way, is also entering into that kind of a state, though not in its full measure. Then there is another beautiful place where we have the description of separate self. It appears in the book of love. When Satyavan and Savitri meet each other, accept each other, and they kind of join into each other, merge into each other. We have a very beautiful description of it regarding Savitri first. Satyavan and Savitri are embracing each other, and the poet says, in a wide moment of two souls that meet, she felt a being flow into him as in waves a river pours into a mighty sea. Constantly she is pouring herself into that mighty sea which is Satyavan. And when a soul is merging into God, to live in Him forever and know His joy, Satyavan is her God. Merging in Him is her joy. Her consciousness was a way of Him alone, and all her separate self was lost in His. Savitri is no more Savitri. That separateness is totally gone, and her true inner being, the true spirit, the soul itself, has totally identified with the soul of Satyavan. Her separate self is no more there now, and all her separate self was lost in His. As a starry heaven encircles happy earth, He shut her into Himself in a circle of bliss and shut the world into Himself and her. The way heaven is embracing the earth, Dhyava, Prithvi, they are the lovers, they are embracing each other, and it is that kind of an experience which is being described for Satyavan and Savitri. They are merging into each other fully, and the separate self does not exist anymore in that condition. Now this is again a very high spiritual state which these people have attained due to their tapasya, spiritual realizations in the course of past births, and that has come out now fully in the present moment, and it is that which is being described. A boundless isolation made them one. That is the beauty of the disappearance of the separate self. It has to melt, it has melted. It has found its true identity, and therefore the separateness does not exist anymore. Now again we have the description of separate self, and Savitri is on her way to find her secret soul. There the passage is like this: all was abolished save her naked self. What has remained is only her pure self. And everything has disappeared from the scene now. And the prostrate yearning of her surrendered heart, these are the only two things which have remained there: her naked self and yearning of her heart. There was no strength in her because everything has gone away. There was no strength in her, no pride of force. The lofty burning of desire had sunk. Even the desire to meet God, all that has disappeared. Lofty desire has sunk. Ashamed, as if it was ashamed, and therefore it has disappeared. Ashamed, a vanity of separate self, the hope of spiritual greatness fled. That by doing tapasya, by doing yoga, one would become spiritually great, powerful, effective, dynamic. Even that urge, that desire has totally gone. That is the total disappearance of the separate self. As if it was ashamed of its own existence there, and it has no business now to be there anymore. There was no strength in her, no pride of force. The lofty burning of desire had sunk ashamed, a vanity of separate self. The hope of spiritual greatness fled. Salvation she asked not, nor heavenly crown. She does not want mukti. She does not want a place in heaven, in Swarga. She is happy as it is. Salvation she asks not, nor a heavenly crown. Humanity also seemed to her too proud a state. Nothing matters. And therefore, the total abolishment of separate self is perhaps the first condition to discover the true soul. And Savitri is approaching that state already here. And then we have got Savitri has discovered her soul. Savitri has entered into the nirvanic experience. Even her body shell has disappeared. She could have easily disappeared from existence itself. But she cannot. Mother Earth would not allow that to happen. She brought Savitri back. And then we have got, perhaps she bore, made conscious in her breast the miraculous Nihil, origin of our souls, and source and sum of the vast world's events, the womb and grave of thought, a cipher of God, a zero circle of being's totality. That is the experience of complete Nihil, of zero circle of being's totality. And that thing, what has happened? It used her speech and acted in her acts. It was beauty in her limbs, life in her breath. The original mystery wore her human face. When everything was abolished, then it is the original mystery which is expressing itself through Savitri as a human person. Thus was she lost within to separate self. Her mortal ego perished in God's night. Only a body was left. The ego shell, afloat with drift and foam of the world sea, a sea of dream, washed by a motionless sense, in a figure of unreal reality. Thus was lost within to separate self, Savitri. Her mortal ego perished in God's night. It is the indication of this experience which we have got here in the passage we have been looking at. Out of a separate self she looked and saw moving amid unconscious spaces of it. In mind, a strange thought, in heart to sneer. The ignorant, the smiling world go happily by upon its way towards an unknown doom, and wondered at the careless lives of men. As if in different worlds they walked, though close, they confident of the returning sun, they wrapped in little early hopes and tasks. She, in her dreadful knowledge, was alone, because she is looking through her separate self. When in a spiritual experience you only conceive yourself as pure entity, then everything becomes non-self, not self. Everything becomes not self. In that condition, our mind makes a separation, a division between that self and we. And it is there that a separate self arises. Now it is that separate self in the experience of this self which does not admit anything, for which everything is not self. It is in that experience Savitri is saying the world happily go by, merrily go by on its routines. In the Gita, we have practically a similar kind of a description right at the beginning in chapter 2, towards the end of chapter 2. That man who casts away all desire does not see in aught his separate self. That man attains soul's peace. Nirmamo, nirahankar. That is the condition in which the soul's peace is attained. Savitri is full of grief, full of anguish, full of sorrow, but at the same time now she has become without desire, without ego. Ego sense has disappeared, desire has disappeared. Nirmamo, nirahankara. Under that condition, what one gets is soul's peace, shanti. Savitri is in that yogic state now. She is struggling with the conflict of life, the joy of union, and the doom waiting at the door to pounce upon her the next moment. Under these two extreme conditions, everything has disappeared from her. All desire, all ego, and therefore she is full of peace. And it is in that peace she can do things. When one is in that state, then one becomes one with the infinite and universal being. Infinite and universal being. A oneness is attained. That is why Savitri could see everywhere that oneness in all the beings around her, in the forest, in the trees, in the birds, everywhere around. She is experiencing that oneness. The division between things has disappeared because now everything is founded on the experience of oneness. The soul has become one with all existence. Is what I got in Savitri also. The last barrier is broken. Ahankar, the sense of separate self, has utterly disappeared. And the soul is all that it sees. That is what the Isha Upanishad says. When an ahankar has disappeared, and it is sense of separate self getting lost, then soul sees everywhere that oneness. So Savitri is now already on the threshold of a great spiritual experience through her vishada, through her grief, through her sorrow, in contrast to the joy of union. She, in her dreadful knowledge, was alone. She was wondering all the while how the world around goes on in a usual manner, oblivious of grief and doom in life, as if it is taken to be part of daily existence, yet remaining unconcerned about it. The fragile happiness or the mortal love, that is what she was wondering at. Even her own love could be sort of fragile in the face of the doom she is going to face, she is going to meet shortly. But there is something still, something deep, something calm, something tranquil in the soul of Savitri, and she can watch all these movements, not only of the world outside, but also the movements going on within her own self. Her quiet visage, still and sweet and calm, her graceful daily acts were now a mask. In vain she looked upon the depths to find a ground of stillness and a spirit's peace. Still away from her was a silent being within, who sees life's drama pass with unmoved eyes, supports sorrow in mind and heart, and bears in human breast the world and fate. That being was still veiled from her sight. These lines are very emphatic. The poetic structure carrying the emphasis along with them. The way in which the metrical movement goes is also indicative of the light of Savitri. Her quiet visage, still and sweet and calm. A quiet visage, still and sweet and calm, a perfectly iambic line. Her graceful daily acts were now a mask. Another perfect iambic line. In vain she looked upon her depths to find another perfect iambic line. A ground of stillness and the spirit's peace. A ground of stillness and the spirit's peace, with a period in between. So, in these 4 lines, we have all aims except a period in the 4th line. A ground of stillness and the spirit's peace. The moment is perfect coinciding with the plight of Savitri. She veiled from her was a silent being within, still veiled. It could be responding, a still veiled from her, followed by a period. Or a silent and abyss being, I am within an abyss. Still veiled from her for a silent being within. This moment is line. Who sees life's drama pass with unmoved eyes. Suppose sorrow of the mind and heart, and bears in human breast the world and fate. So essentially all these 8 lines are Arabic lines with a couple of lyrics and an anabest here and there. The next line also is perfect in its Arabic form. A gleam, the flashes came, the presence was hid. Savitri is looking for her, the being within, who remains silent. Silent being within, she is looking for him. She is not getting a clue of it. It is not in her sight. But sometimes she gets a glimpse of it. Sometimes flashes are seen, but the main presence, that being himself, remains hid. Now, as we saw last time, this itself is a great yogic state of Savitri. She is talking of the being within. She is talking of the hid presence. While she is doing her daily acts in a usual manner, she is living the daily life as a common woman, but still her spiritual status is such that she is wishing to see the being within, silent being within. She is longing for the presence which has remained hidden in her soul. That itself is a great quality of Savitri's soul. It is on the basis of that quality, on that basis of consciousness of hers, that her future yoga will be built up. In other words, Savitri is already a kind of an accomplished yogini in possession of the spiritual qualities, and it is she who was looking for the clue as how to meet the eventuality. All that was happening was her silent heart, her violent heart, and her passionate will were coming out and acting. The presence was remaining hidden, the being remained silent, and the only instruments she had in her possession were the heart and the will. It is on the basis of these nature's instruments she is working. But she has gained the capacity to master them, to control them, to shape their movements and actions in the light, in the power, in the capacity of her soul. She used to do daily acts of lighting the kitchen fire or the altar fire, bringing water from the wells, sweeping the rooms, doing all the household small little jobs. Yet she was doing these things like a common woman. But even behind that commonness of the woman in her is a spiritual quality. Because even in those actions always a strange divinity shone in her. She is doing small little jobs, but behind those jobs, it is as if the divine being within her who is doing all those things. She is not inwardly aware of it, but her actions had that quality. On one particular occasion, during the puja days, Durga had visited the mother. She used to visit regularly, year after year, for several years. On one particular occasion, she was there with her, with the mother, for a couple of days. And mother used to do all her daily routine things very sweetly, very beautifully, very joyously, very happily. And Durga was surprised, how is this possible? How is this possible at all? She was surprised. The difference is, mother's psychic being was always in the front. And it is on the basis of that psychic being all actions were being done. Durga, a goddess, does not have the psychic being, and therefore she cannot understand, appreciate the felicity, the sweetness, the joy of attending even the small little things there around. Savitri is also doing all the household jobs in a routine kind of a manner, but a strange divinity shone in all her actions because her psychic was always in the front, and it is that we saw everyone in that light. It is a psychic love which flowed out throughout the world, the love from the soul of Savitri, embracing the entire world. All love was hers, and this one heavenly cord bound all to all with her as golden tide. That is the quality of Savitri's soul, of her psychic being, and that remains always alert, alive, breathing, vibrant, active, even in these daily routine works of our life. The strange divinity was always there behind her, and to the gods it might look very amazing how this lady can do all these kind of things which they can't do. But when her grief to the surface pressed too close, she is doing these works, but obviously the grief is there and it will be always pressing forward. She cannot forget this place. In fact, she has come here not to forget grief. She has to attain to grief. She has to redeem the sorrow of this creation. She cannot forget about it. So, when her grief to the surface pressed too close, these things, the small little things which she has been doing, household jobs, lighting the kitchen fire, lighting the altar fire, pulling the water from the well, cleaning the rooms, all these little things, these things, once gracious adjuncts of her glory, even these small things, adjuncts of her glory, they are not essentials. They are aspects of her own greater personality, of her own greater activity, all the small things. Once gracious adjuncts of her glory seemed meaningless to her, they lost. When the grief surged forward, they lost content. the last meaning. These things seemed meaningless to her. A glowing shell, or a round, mechanical and void, her body's actions shared not by her will. In all her acts, a strange divinity is shown. We have a number of examples of this in the early stage itself of Savitri's life. Even as she was growing like a child, we see all her movements were divine movements. She had come here to do her unfinished divine task. She had come here with a will to pick up the earthly jobs. She had assumed, the incarnate power had assumed an earthly shape. And when she was born, and when she was growing, even as a child, at once she seemed to found a mightier race. She was ready to establish a mightier race. Even as a child, she had that consciousness, that awareness, that realization deep in her consciousness. Maybe we could read some of those passages which show how Savitri, even in her childhood, was divine. A spirit of his celestial souls aware, that is Savitri. A spirit of his celestial souls aware. There cannot be any more definite statement about Savitri's avatarhood than this. Celestial souls aware descended into earth in perfect mode, and wept not, fallen to mortality, but looked on all with large and tranquil eyes. One had returned from the transcendent place. Savitri is coming from the transcendent place. She keeps on coming again and again. She has returned once more from the transcendent planes, and bore anew the load of mortal breath, who has striven of old with our darkness and our pain. She took again her divine unfinished work, unfinished task, survivor of death and eonic years. Once more, with a fathomless heart, she fronted time. She took again her divine unfinished task. She has been coming again and again, yuge, from age to age. She is returning from the transcendent to complete her unfinished task. Well, she has been coming. Will she be able to finish her task now? The task had remained unfinished through all her past births. Will that task be now finished? The divine task be accomplished in this birth of hers? So obviously, the suggestion here is that yes, it will be got done. There is no doubt about it. Savitri has accumulated all the yogic powers, birth after birth she had acquired, and now She has to launch herself on a yoga which will conquer death. And when death is conquered, her divine task shall be finished. Does it then mean that once a divine task is finished, she will not come again? She need not come again. She has no business to come again. Certainly, that is not what is implied. She has accomplished a major divine task of conquering death. That is definitely there. But the divine manifestation is infinite, is endless, is ever progressive, growing from stage to stage, now not in ignorance, but in knowledge, in splendid possibilities of the infinite. It is that which will be continued birth after birth of Savitri also. Again and again she will come, even after finishing the present task. Again there was renewed, again revealed the ancient closeness by earth vision veiled, the secret contact broken off in time, etc., etc. Then we have again, always she drives the souls to new attempt. That is her task, to carry the soul of the earth, to carry the souls of men on the divine path. Always she drives the souls to new attempt. Always a magical infinitude forces to aspire the inert brute element. Once more for that purpose, once more that will put on an earthly shape. Savitri has come for that purpose once more. Some mission power in her half-awakened frame, that is the condition of Savitri at the moment, half-awakened frame, nursed a transcendent bird's dumb, glorious seed, for which this vivid tenement was made. Even as a girl, as a baby, as a child, even in her childish moments, could be felt the nearness of a light still kept from earth, feeling that only eternity could share thoughts natural and native to the gods, thoughts natural and native to God. This is what this little girl, this little baby is harboring in her being. This at a heavenlier height was shown in her. And invisible sunlight ran within her veins and flooded her brain in heavenly brilliances that woke a wider sight than earth could know. Outlined in the sincerity of that ray, her springing childlike thoughts were briskly turned into luminous patterns of her soul's deep truth. And from her eyes she cast another look of all around her that man's ignorant way. With a greater nature she was one. A mind of light, a life of rhythmic force, a body instinct with hidden divinity, prepared in the image of the coming God. And when the slow rhyme with expanding ears and the rich murmurous swarm work of the days had honey-packed her sense and filled her limbs accomplishing the moon orb of her grace, self-guarded in the silence of her strength. Her solitary greatness was not less. Even as a child, this is Savitri. A scout of victory in the vigil tower. The girl has grown up and become a scout. But she is a scout of victory in a vigil tower. Her aspiration called high destiny down. So as a small scout, see her height. Her aspiration called high destiny down. A silent warrior, pace and steady your strength, inviolate guarding to diamond throne. Such is Savitri, even as a young girl. Many high gods dwelt in one beautiful home, yet was her nature's orb a perfect whole, harmonious like a chant with many tones, immense and various like a universe. The body that held this greatness seemed almost an image made of heaven's transparent light. Now it is this Savitri who is experiencing the intense moment of grief. She knows the cause of it. She has to get ready to face the cause. But when her grief to the surface pressed too close, these things, once gracious adjuncts of her joy, seemed meaningless to her. A gleaming shell, or a round mechanical and void, her body's actions shared not by her will. All the activities Savitri was engaged in, they only looked as adjuncts, as few additional things to the main task she was to do, adjuncts of her joy. She was happy with them, but the real happiness was something else in the case. Savitri was doing all the small little things, yet in all her acts a strange divinity shone. And therefore, even in these small little things, the adjuncts were a part of her bigger joy. Seemed meaningless to her, a gleaming shell, or were a round, mechanical and void. Her body's actions shared not by her will. Now this line, her body's actions shared not by her will. It is understood that the construction is, her body's actions were shared not by her will. Grammatically, were is understood in the context of the previous line. Or where a round, mechanical and void, her body's actions were shared not by her will. Her will stood apart from the work in which the body was engaged. It was not governed by the external contingencies. Always behind a strange divided life of joy and sorrow, anguish and pain. Always behind a strange divided life, her spirit, like a sea of fire, possessed her lover and to his body clung. One locked embrace to guard his threatened mate. She would not allow him to escape from her embrace. Possessed her lover and to his body clung. One locked embrace to guard his threatened mate. All night she woke to the slow, silent hours, brooding with the treasure of his bosom and face, hung over the sleep-bound beauty of his brow, or laid a burning cheek upon his feet. Satyavan is sleeping there, and Savitri, brooding on the treasure of his bosom and face, hung over the sleep-bound beauty of his brow. She is looking at him. She is attracted by that beautiful face all the while. Either she was enraptured by it or laid her burning cheek upon his feet. Now this is something very typical of the ancient Indian culture. Laid her burning cheek upon his feet. This is the love of Radha and Krishna, of Vishnu and Lakshmi. Romantic, lyrical, sweet, psychic, enchanting. It is not the love of Shiva and Parvati. That love is of a different quality, full of power and strength. But here there is a kind of a delicacy in the love between Radha and Krishna, or Vishnu and Lakshmi. Whereas in the love of Shiva and Parvati, there is strength, there is force, Shakti. Or laid a burning cheek upon his feet. Now this is kind of a thing which will not be present in other cultures, certainly not in the Western culture. A wife laying her cheek upon the feet of her husband, hung over the sleep-bound beauty of his brow, or laid her burning cheek upon his feet. Waking at morn, her lips endlessly clung to his, unwilling ever to separate again, or lose that honeyed drain of lingering joy, unwilling to lose his body from her breast. The warm, inadequate signs that love must use. Waking at morn, her lips endlessly clung to his. Now, this is not eroticism. Certainly, this is not pornographic description. It is kind of a sweetness of a relationship which is described here at a deeper level, at a psychic level, at the level of the soul, expressed in the physical. Waking at morn, her lips endlessly clung to his, unwilling ever to separate again, or lose that honeyed drain of lingering joy, unwilling to lose his body from her breast. The warm, inadequate sign that love must use. So the physical relationship is only something of a very small nature in the context of the true love which exists between the two, between Savitri and Satyavan here, of course. It is not the love of common young couple passionately clinging to each other, but there is some other relationship which is being conveyed to us in this description. Unwilling to lose his body from her breast, the warm, inadequate signs that love must use. Intolerant to the poverty of time, she has hardly a few days now left before Satyavan would die. Her passion catching at the fugitive hours, the hours are passing quickly, and she wants to hold them back, but they are not going to stop for that reason. Her passion catching at the fugitive hours will the expanse of centuries in one day of prodigal love and a surf of ecstasy, or else she strove even in mortal time to build a little room for timelessness. Her moment of joy is a small room made in the flow of eternal time. Or else she strove even in mortal time to build a little room for timelessness. By the deep union of two human lives, her soul secluded, shut into his soul. Savitri is experiencing an intense moment of love. But at the same time, Satyavan also finds in her his perfect shrine. Savitri is a perfect shrine for love to come and reside. We already had a description of that more or less at the very beginning of the book of the epic in Canto 2. Or the book of beginning. Love came to her, hiding the shadow, death. Here is Satyavan sleeping, but he is hiding behind him, death. Love came to her, hiding the shadow, death. Well might he find in her his perfect shrine. Satyavan finds in Savitri his perfect shrine. This is what we have here. Since first the earth beings heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, never a rarer creature bore his shaft, that burning test of the Godhead in our parts, a lightning from the heights on our abyss. All in her pointed to a nobler kind. This is the description of Savitri's nobility also. All in her pointed to a nobler kind, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven, exalted and swift, a young, large young spirit, voyaging through worlds of splendor and of calm, overflew the waves of thought to unborn things. Ardent was her self-poised, unstumbling will, her mind a sea of white sincerity, passionate in flow, had not one turbid wave. This is the description of Savitri being a perfect shrine for love to reside. And we have here the same thing here also. We have the same thing here also. The warm, inadequate sign that love must you. Intolerant of the poverty of time, her passion catching at the fugitive hours, will the expense of centuries in one day of prodigal love and self of ecstasy. Or else she strove even in mortal time to build a little room for timelessness by the deep union of two human lives. Her soul secluded shut into his soul. After all was given, she demanded still. Satyavan poured himself totally into her, but she was not satisfied because of poverty of time, as if she must have everything from him in that little span of time at her disposal. After all was given, she but demanded still. Even by strong embrace unsatisfied, she longed to cry, "Oh, tender Satyavan!" He is embracing her with a strong force, yet for her now, he appears only a tender Satyavan. She longed to cry, "Oh, tender Satyavan! Oh, lover of my soul, give more of love while thou canst. To her thou lovest. Imprint thyself for every nerve to keep that thrills to thee the message of heart. For soon we part, and who shall know how long before the great wheel in its monstrous round restore us to each other and our love. Savitri is speaking to herself. She is demanding more and more of love from Satyavan, and she is telling him, soon we part, who shall know how long? She has no idea. Yes, death is coming very fast. How long we'll be away from each other? She has no idea at all. Before the great wheel, this monstrous round, restore us to each other and our love. Savitri and Satyavan have been meeting birth after birth. This is not for the first time they are meeting in human form. Therefore, the great wheel is going to restore them back to be together. And Savitri says that, look, we are here now together, but only for a short while. We will be separate with the arrival of death. And we do not know how long we shall remain again separate before we are brought back to earth together. For 7 lives, the tradition says, the relationship exists between husband and wife. They remain together for 7 lives. For soul we part, and who shall know how long before the great wheel in its monstrous round restore us to each other and our love. She is talking to herself, but she would not utter a single word about it, Satyavan. Too well she loved to speak a faithful word and lay her burden on his happy head. She pressed the outsurging grief back into her breast, to dwell within silent, unheld, alone. She would not allow Satyavan to get an idea, a hint of what is going to happen. Why Savitri is in such a deep anguish. She would not allow She would not disclose anything of her plight to him. Too well she loved to speak a faithful word and lay her burden on his happy head. She pressed the outsurging grief back into her breast to dwell within, silent, unheld, alone. But Satyavan sometimes half understood. Something seemed to him unusual in Savitri. He felt sort of uneasy about things around. But Satyavan sometimes half understood or felt at least with the uncertain answer of our thought-blinded hearts, the unuttered need, the unplumbed abyss of our deep, passionate want. Why Savitri is longing so passionately for him? He half understood of our thought-blinded hearts. Our heart recognizes things quickly, but it is mind which interferes and does not allow heart to see things, to understand things of itself. But Satyavan sometimes half understood or felt at least with the uncertain answer of our thought-blinded hearts, the unuttered need, the unplumbed abyss of a deep, passionate want.